What would you do if your own father handed over your company, the one you built from scratch, to your spoiled younger brother? Well, I walked away. I started over. And when I became even more successful, my father had the audacity to demand I hand that company over too. But this time, I smiled, and I gave him exactly what he asked for. What happened next destroyed them both in ways they never saw coming. Stay with me because this story of betrayal and the sweetest revenge you've ever heard starts on the worst day of my life. Before we dive in, if you love stories about karma, justice, and people getting exactly what they deserve, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell because you won't want to miss what happens next. Trust me, this gets good. My name is Marcus, and for most of my life, I was invisible. Not because I was quiet or unremarkable, but because I had the misfortune of being born first. In my family, being the eldest son didn't mean responsibility, respect, or inheritance. It meant being the practice child, the rough draft, the one they figured out parenting on before my younger brother, the golden child, came along and stole the spotlight. His name was Derek, and from the moment he could walk, he walked on water in my parents' eyes. Derek got the praise, Derek got the attention, Derek got away with everything. And me? I got the expectations.
Let me take you back to where this all started. I was 23 years old, fresh out of business school, with a degree in finance and a head full of dreams. My father owned a mid-sized manufacturing company. Nothing fancy, but it paid the bills, and had been in our family for 2 generations. Growing up, I always assumed I'd take over one day. It wasn't just an assumption. It was a promise whispered over dinner tables and confirmed during those rare moments when Dad actually seemed proud of me. So when I graduated, I didn't go job hunting. I walked straight into Dad's company as a junior manager. And I worked. God, did I work. 60-hour weeks, weekends in the office. I learned every department, every process, every client relationship. I wasn't just punching a clock. I was building something. I was building my future. Within 3 years, I'd overhauled our supply chain, cut costs by 18%, and landed 2 major contracts that doubled our revenue. The company wasn't just stable anymore. It was thriving. Board members noticed. Employees respected me. Even Dad seemed impressed, though he'd never say it out loud. Derek, meanwhile, was 20 years old and still in college. Barely. He was majoring in business too, but his real focus was partying, expensive cars, and burning through Dad's money. He'd show up at family dinners with stories about spring break trips and fraternity pranks, and Mom and Dad would laugh like he was the most entertaining person alive. When I talked about quarterly projections or expansion opportunities, Dad would nod absently and change the subject. The warning signs were there. I just refused to see them.
Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning in March. I remember because I'd just closed a deal with a Japanese supplier that would save us over $200,000 annually. I was literally printing money for this company. I walked into the office feeling on top of the world. Dad called me into his office at 9 a.m. When I walked in, Derek was already there, lounging in one of the leather chairs like he owned the place. He was 21 now, barely graduated, with a shiny new degree and 0 real-world experience. He gave me this smirk. I'll never forget that smirk, and I felt my stomach drop. Dad didn't waste time. He didn't try to soften the blow. He just said it. Marcus, I've decided to make Derek the Chief Operating Officer. He'll be taking over most of your responsibilities, and I'll be transitioning the company to him over the next 2 years. I stood there, frozen. The words didn't make sense. They couldn't. COO? Derek? The kid who'd worked maybe 3 months total in the company, doing what amounted to glorified internship tasks, taking over my responsibilities, taking over the company I'd rebuilt? Dad,
I finally managed, my voice barely steady. This has to be a joke. He looked uncomfortable, but firm. Derek's ready for this. He needs the opportunity to grow, and I think fresh eyes will bring new energy to the company. Fresh eyes. New energy. Meaning meaningless corporate speak to justify the unjustifiable. I've been running this company's operations for 3 years, I said. I've increased revenue by 200%. I've built relationships with every major client we have. Derek doesn't even know how our production line works. Derek finally spoke up, still smirking. Hey, don't be bitter, bro. There's still a place for you here. You can stay on as a senior manager. I'll need experienced people under me. Under him. Under him. I looked at Dad, waiting for him to see reason, to remember every sacrifice I'd made, every weekend I'd given up, every success I'd delivered. But he just looked away. That's when I understood. It didn't matter what I accomplished. It didn't matter how hard I worked or how much I sacrificed. Derek was the golden child, and golden children get kingdoms handed to them. The rest of us just get to watch.
I didn't yell, I didn't throw things or make dramatic speeches. I just nodded slowly, turned around, and walked out of that office. I went to my desk, pulled up my resignation letter template. Yes, I'd kept one updated. Some part of me always knew this could happen, and modified it. 30 minutes later, I walked back into Dad's office and placed it on his desk. "Marcus, don't be rash," Dad said, actually looking concerned now. "Sleep on it." "I've slept on it for 3 years," I replied. "I've given everything to this company, but it's not my company. It never was. It's yours to give to whoever you want, and you've made your choice. I'm making mine." Derek wasn't smirking anymore. "Come on, man, don't be dramatic. We can work together." I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing but pity. "Derek, you're inheriting something you don't understand and didn't earn. Good luck with that." I walked out that day and never looked back. The next 6 months were the hardest of my life. People think starting a business is glamorous. It's not. It's terrifying. I'd burned my bridge with my family, quit the only job I'd ever known, and was starting from absolute zero. No safety net, no backup plan. Just me, my savings, and an unshakable belief that I was better than they gave me credit for. I rented a tiny office space above a pizza shop. The smell of pepperoni became my daily perfume. I lived off instant noodles and black coffee. I worked 18-hour days, cold calling potential clients, building a business plan, and slowly assembling a team of people who believed in my vision. My company was called Apex Solutions, and the concept was simple: manufacturing consulting. I'd help mid-sized companies do exactly what I'd done for Dad's business. Optimize operations, cut costs, increase efficiency. I knew this world inside and out, and I knew I could deliver results. The first 3 months, I made $700 total. That's not a salary, that's revenue. I had one client, a small factory that made industrial fasteners, and they paid me next to nothing. But I delivered. I saved them $40,000 in their first quarter, and they started telling other people. Month 4, I landed 2 more clients. Month 5, 5 more. Word spread. When you actually deliver results, instead of just talking about them, people notice. By month 6, I had 12 clients and had to hire my first employee, a brilliant operations analyst named Sarah, who'd worked with me at Dad's company and quit 2 months after I did because, in her words, Derek's an idiot who's running everything you built straight into the ground. She wasn't wrong. Through the grapevine, I heard that Dad's company was struggling. Derek had alienated 2 major clients, made impulsive decisions that cost the company hundreds of thousands of dollars, and created a toxic work environment. Several key employees had quit. Revenue was declining. But I didn't let myself care. That wasn't my problem anymore. I had my own problems. Specifically,
scaling fast enough to meet demand. By the end of year 1, Apex Solutions had 23 clients and 8 employees. Year 2, we hit 70 clients and had to move to a real office building. Year 3, we broke our first million in profit, and I hired a full executive team. I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving.
By year 5, Apex Solutions was a recognized name in manufacturing consulting. We had offices in 3 cities, over 60 employees, and a client list that read like a who's who of mid-sized industrial companies. We'd been featured in industry magazines. I'd spoken at conferences. I'd done exactly what I'd set out to do: prove that I didn't need my father's company to be successful. And I'd done it without compromise, without shortcuts, and without stepping on anyone to get there. Every person I hired was talented and treated with respect. Every client got my absolute best effort. I built something I was genuinely proud of, something that was truly mine. My personal life had improved too. I'd met someone, a brilliant attorney named Rachel, who saw me for who I was, not who my family wanted me to be. We got engaged. Life was good. Actually, life was great. I'd learned to stop checking in on Dad's company, stopped caring what Derek was doing with the empire I'd built for him. That chapter was closed, and I was writing a much better one. Then, one Saturday morning, my phone rang. Dad. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken in 5 years, except for awkward exchanges at my grandmother's funeral 2 years prior. But curiosity got the better of me. "Marcus, we need to talk," he said, and his voice sounded older, tired. "Can you come to the house?" I drove to my childhood home with Rachel beside me. She squeezed my hand as we pulled up to the house I hadn't entered in half a decade. Dad answered the door. He looked smaller somehow, grayer. Behind him, I could see Mom in the living room and Derek sitting on the couch, looking sullen. We sat down in Dad's office, the same office where he destroyed my life 5 years earlier. The irony wasn't lost on me. Dad cleared his throat. "Marcus, I'm going to be direct. The company's in trouble. Derek has tried his best, but things haven't gone as planned. We're losing money, clients are leaving, and we're looking at potential bankruptcy within the year." I nodded slowly, saying nothing. "I made a mistake," Dad continued, and those words hung in the air like he just admitted the earth was flat. "I should have given the company to you. You earned it, and I let my preferences cloud my judgment." Preferences. What a polite word for favoritism. "We need your help," he said. "We need you to come back, not just as an employee, but as a partner. Help us turn things around. You know this business better than anyone." I glanced at Derek, who was staring at the floor, his golden child aura thoroughly tarnished. He looked like a man who'd been handed a Ferrari and crashed it into a tree. "No," I said simply. Dad blinked. "No? I have my own company, Dad, one I built from nothing. Why would I abandon that to fix Derek's mistakes?" "This is a family company," Mom interjected, speaking for the first time. "It's your legacy, too." "It was my legacy," I corrected. "You gave it away, remember?" Dad leaned forward. "Marcus, I'm asking you, father to son, help us save this company." I stood up. "I'm not interested in saving what you destroyed, but I'll tell you what I will do." I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder I'd prepared after Dad's call because I knew exactly where this conversation was heading. Apex Solutions is expanding into direct manufacturing. We're acquiring struggling companies, restructuring them, and turning them profitable. I'll buy Dad's company, fair market value. You all walk away with something, and I'll save the jobs of the employees who don't deserve to suffer because of Derek's incompetence. Dad's face went pale. "Buy it? You want to buy your own family's company?" "It stopped being mine the day you gave it to Derek," I said calmly. "This is a business transaction. Take it or leave it."
Dad stared at me for a long moment, then slowly shook his head. No, I won't sell to you. If anyone's going to save this company, it should be family saving family, not a hostile takeover. Then I guess you're filing bankruptcy, I said with a shrug. Good luck with that. I turned to leave, but Dad's voice stopped me. Wait, what if we merged? Your company and mine. You'd be CEO, Derek would step down. We'd be partners, 50-50. You'd have control, but we'd all still have a stake. I turned back slowly. You want to merge Dad's company with mine? Yes, Dad said eagerly, sensing an opening. It makes perfect sense. You get the manufacturing assets and infrastructure you need for your expansion. We get your expertise and client base. Everyone wins. I looked at Rachel, who raised an eyebrow. We'd discussed this possibility too. I'll need to review the books, complete financial transparency, and I choose which of your employees stay and which go. Non-negotiable. Done, Dad said immediately. And Derek has no operational authority. None. He can have a minor ownership stake, but he doesn't make decisions. Derek's head snapped up. Hey, wait! Those are my terms, I said. Accept them or don't. Dad looked at Derek, who deflated back into the couch. We accept.
Over the next 3 months, we hammered out the merger details. My legal team, far better than anything Dad could afford at this point, went through every line of his company's finances. It was worse than I'd thought. Derek had run the business into the ground so thoroughly that it wasn't just struggling, it was essentially worthless. Debts outweighed assets. Contracts were hemorrhaging money. It was a shell of what I'd built. But I smiled and nodded and proceeded with the merger anyway. The new company structure was perfect. On paper, it looked like a 50-50 partnership between Apex Solutions and Davis Manufacturing, Dad's company. In reality, I'd structured things so that all actual assets, clients, and valuable infrastructure were held by Apex subsidiaries. Davis Manufacturing was merging in name, but it was bringing almost nothing of value to the table. Dad didn't understand corporate structure well enough to see what I'd done. His lawyer was mediocre at best. They saw 50% ownership and thought they'd won. The merger closed on a Friday. We had a small ceremony, signed papers, shook hands. Derek wasn't there. He'd apparently taken a stress leave to Cabo San Lucas on Dad's dime. Mom brought champagne. Dad gave a speech about family and legacy. I smiled through all of it.
The following Monday, I called a meeting with Dad. Just the two of us in my office. My office in my building that my company owned. Marcus, I wanted to thank you again, Dad started. This merger saved us. I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but family is family. Absolutely, I agreed. Family is family. Which is why I wanted to talk to you about Derek's future with the company. Dad brightened. Yes, I was hoping you'd find a role for him. He's learned from his mistakes, and I think with the right guidance. I'm firing him, I said flatly. Dad's smile froze. What? Derek is terminated, effective immediately. Security is currently boxing up his office. He'll receive 2 weeks severance as required by law and nothing more. You can't do that, Dad sputtered. We're partners. This is a family company. Actually, I can. Check the merger agreement, Section 14, subsection C. I have sole authority over all personnel decisions. You signed it. Dad's face went red to white. But we own 50%. I corrected. You own 50% of Davis Manufacturing, which, as of this morning, is a subsidiary of Apex Holdings with no operational authority. Your 50% entitles you to 50% of Davis Manufacturing's profits. Unfortunately, Davis Manufacturing has no profits. It has debts that Apex is servicing, assets that Apex is utilizing, and not much else. I slid a folder across the desk. This is your quarterly statement. As you can see, Davis Manufacturing is projected to operate at a loss for the next 3 to 5 years while we restructure and absorb it. Your 50% of those losses comes out to about $2 million. We'll need a check by the end of the quarter. Dad opened the folder with shaking hands. His face went ashen as he read. You sabotaged us. I saved you from bankruptcy, I corrected. The company was drowning in debt. I'm fixing it. But fixing broken things is expensive. And as 50-50 partners, we split those costs. I'm happy to pay my share. Can you pay yours? Silence. I didn't think so. Fortunately, the agreement has a provision for that too. If one partner can't meet their financial obligations, the other partner can buy them out at fair market value. Given Davis Manufacturing's current state, fair market value is approximately $12. I pulled out another document. I'm offering you $5,000 for your 50% stake. That's more than generous given the liabilities.
Dad just stared at me, his eyes filling with tears. You planned this. From the beginning, you planned this. I planned to build a successful company, I said. You're the one who came to me begging for help. You're the one who wanted a merger. I just gave you what you asked for. But we're family, he whispered. And there it was, the word that was supposed to erase everything. The magic word that was supposed to make me forget 5 years of being dismissed and devalued. The word that meant I was supposed to sacrifice what I'd built to save what they'd destroyed. We were family when you gave my company to Derek, I said quietly. We were family when you let him dismantle everything I'd built. We were family when you ignored every warning sign that he was incompetent. Where was family then? I stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the city. You taught me something important, Dad. You taught me that blood doesn't mean loyalty, and love doesn't mean respect. You have to earn those things. Derek never earned anything in his life, and you enabled that. You created a monster who couldn't survive outside of your protection. I turned back to face him. So I'm giving you the same thing you gave me 5 years ago, an opportunity. Sign over your stake for $5,000, walk away, and never contact me again. Or don't sign, default on your obligations, and I'll take it anyway while you drown in debt. Your choice. Dad's hand trembled as he picked up the pen. What about your mother? What about Derek? Mom will be fine. She has her own money from Grandma's estate. As for Derek, I shrugged. He's 26 years old. Maybe struggling will teach him something. Dad signed the paper. Dad sold their house 6 months later. The big, beautiful house I grew up in. Gone to pay down debts I'd left them with. They moved to a modest condo. Derek bounced between jobs, unable to hold any position for more than a few months. Turns out, when you don't have Daddy's money and reputation to prop you up, the world is a lot harder. Mom called me once, crying, begging me to help Derek get a job somewhere, anywhere. I told her the same thing she'd told me when I complained about unfair treatment growing up. Life isn't fair, sweetie. You just have to do your best. She hung up on me. I haven't heard from her since. Apex Holdings, meanwhile, thrived. Within 2 years of the merger, we'd restructured the old Davis Manufacturing assets, shed the unprofitable contracts, retained the good employees, and turned it into a lean, profitable operation. The manufacturing division became our most successful branch. I promoted Sarah to vice president. She deserved it. The employees who'd stayed loyal through Derek's catastrophic leadership got raises and proper respect. The company culture was everything Dad's company should have been.
I made sure every employee knew that success came from competence and dedication, not from being someone's favorite. People ask me sometimes if I feel guilty, if I regret what I did. The answer is no, not even a little bit. My father had a choice. When I was building his company, working 60-hour weeks, delivering real results, he could have chosen to see my value. He could have chosen merit over favoritism. Instead, he chose to reward incompetence because it came wrapped in his favorite son's smile. Derek had a choice too. When he was handed everything I'd built, he could have humbled himself, learned from experienced people, and grown into the role. Instead, he let arrogance and entitlement destroy what he didn't understand. And when they came to me, desperate and broke, asking me to save them, they weren't asking out of love or respect. They were asking because they'd run out of options, and they thought family meant I'd forget how they'd treated me. I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves. I just refused to be their safety net. The revenge people think I took wasn't in acquiring the company or in letting them drown in debt. The real revenge was in being right. It was in proving that I was exactly as capable as I'd always claimed to be. It was in building something better than they ever could have imagined, without their help, despite their sabotage. The real revenge was in succeeding so thoroughly that they had to come crawling back and admit I was right all along. Here's the thing they never understood. I didn't do any of this for revenge. I didn't spend 5 years building Apex solutions just to destroy my father. That gives them too much credit. They weren't important enough to be my motivation. I built my company because I knew I could. I built it because I had something to prove, not to them, but to myself. Every client I landed, every employee I hired, every success I achieved was proof that I was never the problem. They were. The revenge was just a bonus, a happy accident that occurred when they inserted themselves back into my life and gave me the opportunity to show them exactly what they'd thrown away. Derek recently reached out on LinkedIn. He wanted to reconnect and let bygones be bygones. His profile showed he was working as a shift manager at a rental car company. From COO of a manufacturing company to helping people pick up sedans at the airport. I didn't respond, not out of cruelty, but out of indifference. He's not my problem. He never was. He's the natural consequence of a lifetime of unearned rewards and unchecked mediocrity. That's what people don't understand about golden children. They shine so bright in their parents' eyes that everyone assumes they must be special. But take away the spotlight, remove the preferential treatment, and you often find there's nothing underneath but entitlement and excuses. If there's a lesson in all this, it's this. Never let someone else's valuation of you become your own. My father looked at me and saw someone ordinary, someone replaceable. He looked at Derek and saw potential, brilliance, a golden future. He was wrong about both of us. I wasn't ordinary. I was competent, driven, and capable of extraordinary things. Derek wasn't brilliant. He was coddled, unprepared, and destined to fail the moment he had to stand on his own. But here's the beautiful part. It didn't matter what my father thought. His opinion had no bearing on reality. My success didn't require his approval, or his company, or his belief in me. I succeeded in spite of him, not because of him. And that's a freedom that golden children never experience. They live their entire lives trying to maintain the pedestal they've been placed on, terrified of falling off. But when you've been knocked off the pedestal before you even had a chance to stand on it, you learn to build your own foundation. And foundations you build yourself never crumble. I'm 38 years old now, Apex Holdings is a $150 million company. I have 300 employees who respect me not because of my last name, but because I've earned it. Rachel and I have been married for 3 years. We have a daughter on the way. My father's company, the one that was supposed to be Derek's legacy, is now a footnote in my company's history, a cautionary tale we tell new executives about the dangers of poor succession planning.
Dad just stared at me, his eyes filling with tears. You planned this. From the beginning, you planned this. I planned to build a successful company, I said. You're the one who came to me begging for help. You're the one who wanted a merger. I just gave you what you asked for. But we're family, he whispered. And there it was, the word that was supposed to erase everything. The magic word that was supposed to make me forget 5 years of being dismissed and devalued. The word that meant I was supposed to sacrifice what I'd built to save what they'd destroyed. We were family when you gave my company to Derek, I said quietly. We were family when you let him dismantle everything I'd built. We were family when you ignored every warning sign that he was incompetent. Where was family then? I stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the city. You taught me something important, Dad. You taught me that blood doesn't mean loyalty, and love doesn't mean respect. You have to earn those things. Derek never earned anything in his life, and you enabled that. You created a monster who couldn't survive outside of your protection. I turned back to face him. So I'm giving you the same thing you gave me 5 years ago, an opportunity. Sign over your stake for $5,000, walk away, and never contact me again. Or don't sign, default on your obligations, and I'll take it anyway while you drown in debt. Your choice. Dad's hand trembled as he picked up the pen. What about your mother? What about Derek? Mom will be fine. She has her own money from Grandma's estate. As for Derek, I shrugged. He's 26 years old. Maybe struggling will teach him something. Dad signed the paper. So, that's my story. The story of how I went from the overlooked eldest son to the CEO who acquired my father's company out from under him. The story of how the golden child's shine tarnished while the ignored son built an empire. Was it revenge? Well, maybe. Was it justice? Definitely. Was it satisfying? Absolutely. But more than any of that, it was proof. Proof that hard work matters more than favoritism. Proof that competence beats entitlement every single time. Proof that you don't need someone else's validation to be successful. You just need to believe in yourself enough to keep going when everyone else counts you out. If you're the overlooked child, the underestimated employee, the person everyone bets against, this story is for you. Your value isn't determined by who recognizes it. Your worth isn't dependent on who validates it. Build your own empire. Prove them wrong. And when they come back asking for help, smile and give them exactly what they deserve. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about justice, karma, and people getting what they deserve. Drop a comment telling me, would you have done the same thing, or would you have forgiven your family? I read every comment, and I want to know what you think. Thanks for watching, and remember, success is the best revenge. But success that makes them beg for help, that's the sweetest revenge of all. Until next time.